Welcome, friends. Good morning. And did you know Forsythia is delicious, not just for our eyes, but in our minds and on our forks? It's true. Be sure that you're just eating the petals. The sepals, not so delicious, but now you know. And happy spring. Let me count the ways. And welcome to Fruition Seeds. I am Petra, and I am delighted to share with you some little tips as it's live Q&A on what's going on with our yellowing garlic leaves. So perhaps you've noticed that the tips of your leaves, of your garlic, are getting a little on the yellow side. Yellow on forsythias, totally fabulous. Yellow on garlic leaves, not so fabulous. And what's going on? Here is the thing. Garlic leaves yellowing, and leaves yellowing in general on plants, means your plants are hungry, and it's very easy to feed them, and we'll talk about that too. And I just want to slow down for a moment because let's talk about soil and soil temperature and nutrient availability. It's so fascinating because let's talk the same amount of, like the same cup of soil in spring, in winter, in fall, any season will have the same amount of nutrients in them. But colder soil, those nutrients are less bioavailable to plants uptaking them. And so here we are in spring. It's really warm and beautiful today, but the soil is still quite cold. And I mean, it snowed last week and accumulated a little last week. And especially if you have beautiful mulch on your garlic like this, your soil is cold. So yes, it is so true. Right now, they are the hungriest, growing so fast, and they have the least nutrients of any time that they will be growing this year. And so it's really important to keep them healthy and growing robustly above the ground as well as below the ground, that you feed them well. And you've got a bunch of options. If you have compost, making compost tea, using fish emulsion, also awesome options. You can also top dress them, but here's the thing. Top dressing them will be slower to actually get to the soil, and then because the soil is cold, it's not going to get into your plants and out to the tips of your garlic leaves so much. But fun facts, plants literally photosynthesize through their leaves. You knew that. They uptake nutrients through their leaves as well, which is just mind-blowing. So if you can foliar feed, whether it's with dilute fish and kelp emulsion, compost tea, leaf tea, you've got so many options. And that dilution and foliar feeding, that spraying of the leaves, actually means that they're immediately uptaking those nutrients right where they need it most. So yes, look so forward. You'll find. And our fish emulsion, I often just say fish emulsion, but it's actually fish and kelp emulsion. Because here's the thing. Fish emulsion is very much nitrogen, which is delicious. And if it's highlighting nitrogen more than phosphorus and potassium, it's going to emphasize foliar growth, leaf growth, foliage, rather than a root, rather than a fruit. So for the leaves right now, it wouldn't be the worst to put nitrogen on, but we just love putting that even keel, beautifully balanced fish plus kelp so that it's 100 micronutrients plus, and it has all of those balanced macronutrients so that it's emphasizing all the different layers of that plant's health and growth. And oh my gosh, did I mention this is live Q&A, so jump on in and don't be shy. And Jamie says, hi Petra, any advice on planting grapes? Oh, eating grapes in Groton, New York. Oh my gosh, I don't know anything about grapes, to be honest with you, besides that I love them, and I love that there's so many here in the Finger Lakes. And oh my goodness, if you haven't already planted catawbas in your life, please do. But honestly, I know now is a really great time to be planting them, but apart from that, I really don't have any advice for you. Thanks so much for asking. And if I were asking that question, I would go ahead and ask Cooperative Extension. They will have lots of great growing info for you. And Louise said, should I leave the straw mulch on my garlic? Here's the thing, mulching, yes, it suppresses weeds and it retains moisture and it does a number of other things. But in the weeding department, once you mulch, you've pretty much committed to either mulching more or hand weeding. And I don't love to hand weed myself, so I try to take mulching very seriously, like 6+ inches in the fall, and then right now we'll go through and pull any hand weeds that might be, hand pull any weeds that are coming up, but then we're going to actually put more mulch on, because it's just really hard to do all of that hand weeding. Hard. Well, it is. As much time as you spend hand weeding, spend that much time doing yoga. And so if you don't use any mulch, then you can stand up and use hose, any number of hand hose, hula hose, standing hose. You can use those tools to do your weeding for you, when you're mulching, you're committing to hand weeding. So if you've already mulched, just commit to less. The soil won't warm up as quickly, but heavens, it's so worth it. It's so worth it to leave it on, and the garlic doesn't mind the cold. If anything, it will temper it and keep it more even keel on the slow ramp to success. But slow, sure and steady wins the race. So yes, leave your mulch on. In fact, mulch it again if you're less than 4 inches of mulch, so that you can be really confident that you are retaining glorious quantities of moisture as well as suppressing glorious quantities of weeds. And thank you so much for asking, Louise. And Mina says, "Hi Petra, growing my onions, scallions, and leeks indoors. Wondering when it's time to transplant. Outdoors in zone 7. Any tips?" You can go for it now. So we will be transplanting those alliums, onions, scallions, leeks in the beginning of May. So just a few weeks from now. So honestly, you can totally plant them out now. Couple tips: harden them off, acclimate them, let them spend 4 or 5 days and nights outdoors, just being outdoors in their containers before you transplant them. Transplanting is pretty stressful, and honestly, going from the coziness and consistency of your kitchen or wherever you're growing them to the dynamic kind of like stresses of living in an environment in the world is a lot. And so getting them to acclimate to the stresses of the world and just to the beautiful realities of the world, and before you stress them out by transplanting them, just helps them set up for success. And as you're planting, I always love to put some granular or fertilizer or a compost, something in the hole just to accompany them. When I'm climbing a mountain, I want snacks, and growing in your gardens is totally climbing a mountain, friends. And another tip, if you want your onions, well, not on the onions, if you want your leeks and your scallions to have more and more of that blanched white portion, plant them deeply. Even if they just have an inch above the soil, they're going to be just fine. They will be smaller, of course, but they're going to grow, and you'll have that much more of the shoot that is blanched and tender and sweet. So that is a hot little tip, and so grateful to share them with you. Enjoy planting out, my friend. So yeah, I'd start hardening them off now, and 5 days from now, go ahead and transplant. And Nancy says, "Hi Petra." Hi Nancy. "Do deer eat potato plant foliage? Not in my experience." Yeah, they are covered with these little fuzzy trichomes, these hairs that are and full of oils that are not delicious too. We've never had any problems at all with them. So of course, deer are very tenacious as well as ravenous. So I hate to sign on a dotted line and guarantee that they will never eat any potato ever. But it has been our experience that they are thoroughly disinterested in such things, and may the same be the case for you. And Amber says, "I still have my onions indoors and they aren't looking so great. I have them under a grow light, but they are limping and slowly shriveling up. Help." That sounds really troubling. I wonder what kind of potting mix you're using. And I also wonder yet how far under the grow light they are and what kind of a grow light it is. For our grow lights that we share on our website, it's 6 inches above the top of the foliage is ideal. But honestly, different grow lights have different optimum heights above the plants that are honestly unique to each individual light. So be sure that you're paying attention to those as you go. And shriveling up, oh gosh, that sounds so awful. And I imagine you're watering them plenty. Often plants shrivel when they are not watered well, but I have a feeling that that's not at all the problem. So go ahead and send us some pictures. And I can't wait to try to help you, Amber. That sounds so frustrating. It's right like last final call. Like yesterday was the final call for onions. So if you have any more seeds, I'm tempted to encourage you to just start again as well, or just keep the ones that you are and see if you can encourage them back to thriving, but sow some additional seeds too. And just take notes and reach out to us, to all the other gardeners you know. And the more we all share what we're experiencing in joy and in struggle, the more we will all know and be able to better share our joys and also hold our struggles. And oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Any suggestions for deer fencing? I should do a whole little video about our deer fencing actually. It's electric, but it has like 2 layers. Imagine one line here, another line here, and then a third line 3 feet away in the middle of those. And so it works by depth perception. Anyway, it's going to be really hard to describe without actually showing it to you. So maybe that'll be next week's video, because it's really inexpensive and we've had it since the beginning of fruition in 2012 and it's been super effective. It doesn't keep the groundhogs out, but it totally keeps the deer out. And fish and kelp emulsion now. Yes, if you have garlic growing and you see yellow tips, now is the perfect time. If you have garlic growing and it's still green, now is also the perfect time for your fish and kelp emulsion. Right before you are thirsty, before you experience the sensation of thirst, you're dehydrating. So, right, by the time you are actively like, wow, I really need a drink, your body is already dehydrated. It's not a prevention measure. It's a let's clean up this mess kind of measure. And so think of, if your plants are green and looking glorious, that is the best time to be feeding them with fish emulsion or compost tea, because prevention is the best cure. And it's always better to eat before you're hungry, before you're hangry, right? So thank you for asking, Julie. And Jamie asks, boneset and echinacea seeds, advice on growing them. First time starting these, wanted to add them to my rock garden. It gets full sun. They're going to thrive in your full sun. On boneset, they can take partial sun too, but they will grow that much taller and that much more beautiful foliage, as well as beautiful flowers for you in full sun. So actually check out, I will send you to our website. Last week we shared we have our whole sowing and growing webinar series. If you haven't already joined, here's a shameless plug. It's every Wednesday and we hang out for an hour and it's a deep dive. 2 weeks ago, it was all about tomatoes. Last week, it was all about how to grow perennial herbs, flowers, and natives. Next week, it's all about broccoli and Brussels sprouts. And you can register for them totally free on our website. And you can also see the replays when you register too. So go ahead and register and check it out. But a few things to keep in mind. If you have soil blockers, they are the best. We have them on our website right now, which is super exciting, but they, especially natives like echinacea and boneset, they haven't been domesticated as fully as lettuce and so many other garden varieties. And so the less that they are constrained in plastic, the healthier they will grow. So soil blocks make a huge difference. And other than that, just be sure to not sow them too deeply, especially the boneset, because it's so small. You only need to sow seeds twice 30 their depth, so it's really easy to sow seeds way too shallowly. And there's just a couple tips, but enjoy the full webinar for so many more, my friend. And you can watch it. You can also honestly just listen to it as a podcast too. So enjoy every moment. And Jamie asks, are you watering your garlic often or letting the soil dry out first? Honestly, our soil is still quite moist, especially with the mulch, the genius of mulching. So we've never watered our garlic, and we probably never will. So if we don't significantly mulch it, we do lay drip tape out over it so we can drip moisture, and that is crucial. But with substantial mulch, it is retaining all kinds of moisture, and so we find, we love you so much. We find that we don't need to worry about the water. And thank you so much for asking. And Jolene, good morning, Jolene. How long does ashwagandha seeds take to germinate? Do they need heat? Been waiting a while. Oh no! Honestly, I don't remember offhand, but it's not too long. But it's not instant like kale, arugula. They can be 24 hours, easily 72 hours they're up. But ashwagandha, in my memory, and it says on the back of each packet, like 5-7 days on a heat mat. 8 and 10 days without a heat mat is my best guess. But again, it'll say on our website, also on the seed packet, and her heat mat will totally help it. Fun, amazing facts. Ashwagandha is actually in the solanaceous, in the nightshade family. So it's related to potatoes and tomatoes and ground cherries, which you will totally recognize when you see their darling little red fruits in their darling little paper lanterns. I digress. So solanids love to grow on heat. So yes, if you can start your ashwagandha on a heat mat, it will be so much happier. It's also very easy, because ashwagandha is such a small seed, to simply plant it too deeply, and you only need to sow seeds twice their depth. So it's really easy to sow all seeds too shallow, too deeply. Definitely the case with small seeds, which ashwagandha is a pretty small seed. Gosh, good luck. And thank you for asking, Jolene. And Edna says, got my seeds today. Woohoo! Happy spring and happy sowing, my friend. Don't be shy. And hi from Connemara, Ireland. Still quite cold here. Oh my gosh, a slow start to the growing season. Sending love to you, Mary. And thanks for tuning in. And Lisa says, beautiful day here in upstate New York. Lots to do and loving it. Yes. And shameless plug, if you are at all in our area, we are actually open today and tomorrow. We're open on the weekends now through the end of May. Between 10 and 2, you'll find us with seeds, with fish emulsion, with our compost. It's $7 a 5-gallon bucket. Shovel your own. Bring your pickup truck. Don't be shy. And bring all your questions. Next week, we'll have our organic seed potatoes as well. A few more weeks, we'll have our broccoli, our Brussels sprouts, our cold hardy transplants. And by May, we will have our beautiful organic transplants of tomatoes and peppers and ground cherries and all manner of things for you. And when can I put my onion seedlings in the ground? They look great and ready. Yeah, if you're about 1 month before your final frost, you can totally plant them outside. So yes, oh my gosh, I love garlic so much, and they will be so glad to join their allium kin outdoors. So yeah, just make sure that you're hardening them off, acclimating them for at least 5-6 days before transplanting them. And with that hardening off period, honestly, now is perfect. It's not going to frost for a few days. So letting them acclimate to temperature shifts before they experience any freezing temperatures for at least 3 days is critical, so that they lean in and almost remember that cold hardiness. If they just go straight from your kitchen or your greenhouse to a frost, they can really get stressed and they can actually die. But if you are acclimating them, they will remember quickly and slowly all at once that innate resilience that they've had. They've been evolving for millions of years, and so much the more joy for you and your onions. And please share that deer fencing video. Very interested. Yes, let's talk about deer and fencing. And can I plant my dahlias in containers now, starting indoors before I plant my garden? Yes. We plant our dahlias indoors 1 month before final frost. So it'll be a couple weeks yet that we do, and you can plant them earlier if you have lots of space and lots of light and lots of time for tender loving care. But we start 4 weeks before our approximate final frost. And here's the thing, you want to plant them horizontal in super moist potting mix, bury them just a touch. Never water them again until you see a sprout emerge. At that point, you can water them as you would totally normally, letting the top dry out, but then just keep them well watered. But literally, I have rotted so many thousands, not joking, of dahlia tubers and tubers in general, tubers, rhizomes, whether it's ginger, whether it's dahlias, they are really susceptible to rotting as they are breaking their dormancy. And so it's vital that they be warm and moist, but not too moist. And so literally we plant them into moist potting mix to get them going and then never water again until we see a green sprout emerging. Hot dahlia tips. And Tara says, heading out to feed my garlic with my fish emulsion right now. Woohoo! That's so wonderful. Sending love from our garlic to yours and our fish emulsion to yours. And when do you feed the garlic when growing? We feed our garlic every 10 days to 2 weeks with dilute fish emulsion. It's true. We have a whole sprayer that is dedicated to fish emulsion because it's quite stinky. And if it smells like fish, it's the good stuff. If you're like, wow, this is pretty gross, Petra warned me. Yes, it's the good stuff. So yes, we have a dedicated spray bottle for our fish and kelp emulsion. And here's the thing, 1 ounce of fish emulsion dilutes into 1 gallon of water, and you only want to make as much as you need for that moment. Fish emulsion is very shelf stable in its concentrated form in these bottles. A little goes a long way, but as soon as you dilute it, it does not have the shelf stability. And so vital to only make what you can use at that time. We totally use it on our houseplants as well. And I'm so excited for us all feeding our garlic and feeding ourselves and all future generations of all species as a direct result. And Darcy says, do the habanada peppers take a lot longer than other peppers to pop? Yes! Oh my gosh. Habanada pepper, ají dulce pepper. Check out on the backs of our packets. You'll find the Latin name. You'll see that habanada is Capsicum chinense, and that all of the rest of your peppers predominantly are going to be Capsicum annum. And annum are much quicker to germinate. All peppers need heat to germinate. But where 77 annum is like, yeah, let's go. Chinense is like less than 85. I don't think I'm in the tropics, and I am from I am solar powered. Like, let's not germinate until we're back in the tropics. Okay, good talk. So you want to be sure. We actually start our Capsicum chinense peppers 2 to 3 weeks prior to our Capsicum annum. But it's not, if you've already started them like recently, it's not too late. Just know that yes, they take that much longer to pop. And if you don't have a heat mat, your germination rate is going to be much lower than if you do have a heat mat. And I'm so glad you asked. And my Crispidia is taking forever, it feels like, to germinate. And habanadas too. I have them both on heat mats. Everything else is up and quite happy, but these are being quite stubborn. Yes, both of those are quite stubborn, although the Crispidia is not nearly as stubborn as the habanada. But I am, and this may or may not be the issue at all, but in general, people tend to sow seeds too deeply, and especially with the Crispidia, flowers, they can be really small seeds, and you only need to sow seeds twice their depth. So often when people have issues with flowers taking a long time to germinate, they've just been buried too deeply. So I don't know if that's at all the case, but I wouldn't worry. Both of those are definitely on the recalcitrant side. So, and also when I put on my labels, as well as in our, across the seasons perpetual calendar, I'll write, on the label, I'll write the name Crispidia, but I'll also write down the date. It's April 4th. And so then I know, wow, it's taking forever for these seeds to germinate. And I'll look at the label and be like, oh, I guess it's only been 3 days. I guess I might be impatient or excited. And maybe both of those things are true. So those may or may not be true for your diversity, but I hope that they help. And just a couple more questions, friends. I'm so delighted to share this time with you. And Stu, good morning, Stu. What is good to interplant with garlic, if anything? Great question. So right now, we haven't interplanted at all at this point, but you totally could when your garlic is still quite small like this. You can pull back the mulch, or if you don't have mulch, don't pull back the mulch, but simply transplant. I love to put a single transplant of like a really small head lettuce, like maybe winter density, or maybe a spinach plant, and just plant it in between. Kind of imagine if your garlic is here and here and here and here, plant it in the middle, right? So it's like on a staggered grid. And so that way you're giving everyone the optimum space away from each other as they're growing. And so you can let that spinach, you can let that lettuce, you could let that baby arugula grow. And you want to be sure, though, that you're harvesting that interplanted greens. It could also be something delicious like parsley, but you just want to be sure that you're harvesting it before the foliage is at all starting to overlap with your garlic. So generally you have them in the ground for about 6 weeks, and we could plant them out now. So wonderful question. I love it, Stu. And and oh my gosh, I'm tuning in from the Northern Catskills. Any tips on turmeric? Oh, I've resisted watering and I'm seeing the buds swell, but I'm specifically wondering if they should be on heat mats. I have them on now, but the soil is so dry. Yes, heat mats all day long. And yes, you can go ahead and give them some good water. They're not quite as susceptible as ginger to rot, but yeah, you want to make sure that you want to err on the side of dry, but if it's so dry, if it's literally like dust, that's too dry. So go ahead and give them some water. And if they've got sprouts, they're gonna pop. I'm so excited. And Marla asks, how do I label our soil blocks? We have just little pieces of plastic that essentially they're like yogurt containers. So that's how, and we stick them in between the soil blocks. So they're like, it's pressed in between the soil blocks. And the soil blocks are like keeping them upright. And Bija, good morning. My shallots are up, but my garlic is not. Is this okay? Yes, this is totally normal, and don't worry, is the short story. And oh my gosh, Stu, this final question. Stu asked, my shallots are not even up, wondering if they were winter killed. Oh my gosh, I haven't made a video about this yet, but I'm about to. We all are learning everything all the time. And once you know something, it's like dangerous, because then like you think you know something and you stop paying attention to the variables and you might do something silly. Anyway, we learned something very devastating this year. We have been cultivating our garlic and shallots the last few years rather than mulching them, mostly because we didn't have a great mulch source. And we mulched, but we have a great mulch source now. We mulched all our garlic, and I'm so stoked. We mulched all our shallots. We killed most of our shallots. It's so devastating. I want to cry. I love shallots, and I love sharing them with you all. And so will not have many shallots to share this year. Super sad. So yeah, we mulched them too much, and we totally killed them. I've never killed garlic by mulching them too much. Here we go. I don't want to tell you how many thousands and thousands and thousands of shallots we totally killed. So yes, I forget what the question was actually. If Stu says my shallots are not even up, wondering if they were winter killed. It's possible, but honestly, I wouldn't worry. if in 3 weeks they're still not up, I would start to worry. But even though it's so warm out now and like I'm totally about to put on a sun hat and sunscreen, it's not even mid-April, so it's still quite early here in zone 5. So yes, don't worry, even though it feels like it's almost summer and why did we just plant tomatoes last week? We're still a long way away here in zone 5 from having not just frost-free nights, but nights in the 50s when we can actually plant out our tomatoes. So yes, there's still so much left of spring to spring, spring yet to sprung. Well, friends, thank you so much for joining. It's such a joy to share this day with you. And yes, if your garlic leaves are turning yellow, fish emulsion is the thing. And if your forsythias are yellow, rejoice. Tuck them on your salads. The petals are wonderful. Leave the sepals there. They're not so wonderful. And enjoy every moment, every bite. And let's have a final moment of quiet, of silence, just to listen to the world coming to life undeniably all around us. Thank you, friends. Sending love from our gardens to yours. Oh, and shameless plug, if you're around, if you're in the area, we're open today, tomorrow, every weekend through the end of May, between 10 and 2. And we have so much to share with you. Beyond seeds, beyond fish emulsion, we would love to hear your stories. We would love to hear your quandaries and accompany each other in that way too. So don't be shy. Let me count the ways. Happy spring and happy everything.